My brothers and sisters in Christ, as we approach this third Sunday in Lent, the time that each year we begin the celebration of the scrutinies with our catechumens, this day that we celebrate, this commemoration of St. Cyril of Jerusalem, seems very appropriate. Obviously, the RCIA process by which people come into the church, the calendar and the program extends throughout the year, but the season of Lent is a very intense time of preparation for those who have gone through the rite of election, for our catechumens, and then certainly also for those already baptized in other faiths but who want to come into full communion with the church, those candidates. This is a time of intense preparation, of them praying in preparation for the Easter mysteries, as well as the church praying for them. We as a parish should be praying for them. But as a priest, as a pastor who celebrates the scrutinies, works with the catechumens, St. Cyril of Jerusalem plays a big role in that we have some of the oldest catechetical materials for catechumens from him, known as the Jerusalem Catecheses. He was a 4th century saint, of course, as his name suggests, in Jerusalem, and the bishop of the time put him in charge of the preparation of catechumens. So it's a great treasure that we have his writings, the way that they thought of bringing catechumens into the church back in the 4th century. And something that sticks out for me that's pertinent to us, those of us who are already baptized during this season of Lent, when we're supposed to be embracing more and more the cross, is that St. Cyril speaks of the multiple facets of the mystery of baptism. And he speaks, and he's saying this to catechumens, but I think we need to hear this as well, which is that the baptism that we receive is more than the forgiveness of sins, which, yes, that's a huge part of it. And it's even more than spiritual adoption as beloved sons and daughters of God. Those tend to be the parts we focus on the most. We say that, yes, it's just as in the past there was the thought of baptism, whether it was John's baptism for sins, or in the past of sacrifice, as the idea of trying this atonement for sins. Okay, so we can say, yes, in baptism we're cleansed of original sin, and are at the time of baptism, if we have any sins of our own, we're forgiven of those. Okay, that's one thing. And yes, spiritual adoption, becoming part of the church, becoming part of the family of God. Yes, very important. But there's another part that we need to keep in mind for Lent, which is that our baptism is a baptism into the death of Jesus. And so when we talk during this time of year, and as the Gospels almost daily remind us of the cross of Jesus that's coming, we're reminded that it's not when he says to take up your own cross, this isn't just something symbolic like deal with your troubles or deal with your sufferings, but it's our call to be united in a very specific way with the cross of Jesus. So his love poured out on the cross for us, his willingness to take the weight of sin out of love, to pour out his very life for us, is a call. It's both an atoning act for us. In that sense, we can say we receive the grace of the cross, but it's also an invitation and a model for us to follow. So when he says, take up your own cross, as we know, he doesn't literally speak of every one of us being crucified, physically nailed to a cross. But what he is speaking of is the way in which we pour out our lives for others. And so in our baptism, as St. Cyril of Jerusalem will point out, we are being baptized. The waters, we literally are submerged into the death of Christ. Water is a symbol of life, but it's also, in the ancient world, a symbol of death. And so, water gives life, but water is dangerous. You can think of it almost in the sense of we are drowned in the water of baptism. We submerge. It's a symbol of death, going under the waters, submerged into the death of Christ, and rising out of the waters to new life, rebirth. That's the resurrection of Jesus. That's the powerful symbol that's happening in baptism, whether you're baptized through submersion or through sprinkling, as we call it. Either way, our baptism is a very particular participation in the cross of Jesus. And so, during this time of Lent, we are being called to pray with that mystery. And St. Cyril is very keen on telling the catechumens that they need to engage the mystery. He was not a believer in explaining all the symbols of everything to them. He said the mysteries speak for themselves. We actually need to grapple with mystery. That's part of it. And so we are being invited in a very special way right now to grapple with the mystery of our baptism, which is to grapple with the mystery of the cross of Jesus Christ. Christ has so loved me to pour out his very life on the cross. Now, he says, I must take up my cross if I am to follow him. In what way am I being called to pour out my life for the Lord and for others? That is the call we are to explore during this time, not just how to be more patient with suffering, but how am I being called to pour out my life so that others may have life more fully. May God bless you.